Hi there, everybody. Welcome to yet another Heimdal Security webinar. I hope everybody is well today. And yeah, can you guys believe it? It's November already. It was like yesterday, it was January or something like that. So guys, my starting question for today is, what's one thing that you wanted to do this year, but you hadn't had the chance to do it yet? And I'll start first, right? Lead by example. I wanted to go to the beach, and I didn't have a chance to go to the beach this entire year. How about you? What's one thing that you wanted to do, but haven't had the chance to do it this entire year? For, of course, multiple reasons, like I didn't have the time, or I don't know, had other things more important to do. So use the chat box, use the Q&A box, whatever is closest to you, because we're gonna give a moment or two for a few other people to connect. So let's see what you guys wanted to do and didn't have a chance to do. By the way, I hope you don't mind my very manly pink salmon type of mug over here. I like extremes, right? I look like a Viking, though I'm drinking from a pink mug, so. Okay, we have Jens telling us he wanted to visit a friend in the US. Okay, that's amazing. I actually wanted to visit a friend in Brazil. I promised him like since 3 years ago that I'm gonna go visit, but the plane fare was so big. So we have Dusan saying, I wanted to go to ski for 14 days. That's amazing. It means your legs are very healthy if you can do 14 days of skiing. And I literally have my friend from Brazil saying that I should come to Brazil. Yeah, I was referring about you over there when I said that I wanted to come to Brazil. So guys, 30 seconds and we will start it. If anybody else feels like sharing what they wanted to do this year, not necessarily the summer, this entire year, but didn't have a chance to. And I would add one more thing. I wanted to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine, but I didn't have the chance to do that, right? Joking, guys. Wanted to just get you guys motivated to share another story. Come on, do we have another story before we start? If not, we will start because we have a lot to talk about today. So guys, let's start. Of course, this is a public webinar, right? So being a public webinar, the first step is I need to introduce myself. You guys need to understand who am I and what qualifies me to actually be the speaker of today's session. So looking at who am I? My name is Andrei, and I am Heimdal Security's cybersecurity and product expert. I've been with Heimdal for 4.5 years now, and I've had the pleasure of working in countless roles, mostly including sales or related to sales. But that means I was in touch with product all day long. So I had about 5,000 plus meetings throughout these years. And that made me know the product, know the industry so much that I literally said, I need to start talking to people more. So instead of me doing one-on-one meetings, I've started now to do this type of meetings so that I can talk to all of you guys. Now, again, since this is a public webinar, I also need to tell you who is Heimdal. So basically, Heimdal is a unified cybersecurity vendor that has a stack of products that either prevent, detect, react to vulnerabilities and to potential threats, as well as controlling and management tools. So basically, it's one agent, one console, and all the products that you see on the screen. And we're currently servicing over 11,000 business-to-business customers. And of course, we're also servicing business-to-consumer, but for the business-to-business, it's this number, which we are very, very proud of. Now, I told you that we have a lot to do today. Now, the first thing is, let's take a look at the agenda. I've switched things around a bit. So we will first start with the most significant attacks in history, the weaknesses that made them possible, and how to construct and what should have you done to avoid this type of attack. Then we will look at why is it imperative to redefine your, I believe I'm not sharing my screen. Let me share my screen over here, guys. Just a second. Thank you from the audience telling me that I need to share the screen. Okay, thanks, guys. I owe you one over here. Okay, so now I believe you can see the correct screen. Anybody in the audience, please shout if you're not. Thank you. Okay, then we're gonna talk about why is it imperative to redefine endpoint security. Endpoint security developments that might affect your 2023 strategy. How unified endpoint security can help you stay ahead of the curve. And of course, last but not least, as you always know, a Q&A segment. And with the screen sharing, sometimes you actually don't need screen sharing because the screen could actually take off the attention from the speaker, right? So if I am ever not sharing the screen and you guys are okay with it, let's just roll like that with the session. I'm joking. Okay, guys. So in order for us to talk about the most significant attacks in history, we should first look at where is the world right now, right? So if we look at where is the world right now, we will see that we live in a totally digitalized world, right? So everybody in the world has at least 2, 3, 4, 5 devices that are connected to the internet. And if something is connected to the internet, it means that it is vulnerable to an attack, mostly. Now, if we just go back in time a bit, so we will do some time-space travel over here and go to the major historical moments that actually put this type of industry that we're in on the map. So we will be looking at 2 moments. And with that being said, I want to launch a quick poll and ask you guys if you know what is the name of the first recorded virus. And I'm sorry for not having the virus over here at the end of the sentence, but basically pick the name of the first recorded virus. And we have people voting in for worm, we have people voting in for I love you, we have flu, we have creeper, nobody's going for nexus. Okay, a lot of people go for I love you. That's a famous one, right? Okay, let's give it 5 more seconds. We are already over 55% voted. Okay, people can retract the vote again if they want. So, okay, so now I'm closing the poll and I'm sharing the results with you guys, right? So we have the majority of people voting for I love you. Then we have the second majority voting for worm, and then creeper and flu. So basically, you guys know something with that I love you. That was a major virus that shook the cyber world. But if we're talking about the first virus that actually happened in this world, let me go back to my sharing and make sure the sharing is working. Okay, let me go on polls, hide the poll, and share my screen over here with you guys. I'm checking, screen is visible. Okay, so the first major moment in history, the first virus, the first generation 1 attack ever recorded was in 1971, and it was called the Creeper. So the guys that voted for the Creeper are cybersecurity fanatics such as me, or they like history, right? So this was the first generation 1 attack, and let me tell you just a few words about it. I promise I won't stay too long on history, but this basically was a virus that was spreading to a network of computers called ARPANET. ARPANET is the predecessor of the internet. Basically, it's actually the forefather of the internet. That's the first and closest thing to the internet before the actual internet appeared. So basically, what this virus was doing, it was harmless. It was just coming in on your screen, and it was displaying this particular message that you see here. I'm the creeper, catch me if you can. Now, since in cybersecurity, whenever we're talking about this polarity between cybersecurity and cybercrime, it's basically first there was a cybercrime and then a cybersecurity measure. And this has happened throughout history. This is how cyber criminals evolved, and this is how cybersecurity evolved. So it's exactly like with commerce, right? Competition. is the mother of evolution, right? So what happened next? Well, in 1972, the Reaper has appeared, and the Reaper had the sole mission of finding the creeper and killing it and deleting the local files of the creeper. Now, this was super funny because it was basically a cat and mouse game. And if we look at this, this is the first generation attack, and this is the first ever recorded antivirus in the world. Now, let's go and see a second generation attack. Let's move in 1988. Well, in 1988, if you look at this particular image right over here on the screen, and I don't know where I am on the screen, it might be in this side or this side. If you look at this, this is how the internet was back then. It was like a very safe village. Picket fences, nobody was closing their doors, nobody needed security, right? It was basically what, 60,000 computers worldwide or something like that. Now, in November 2nd, 1988, what happened? The first internet worm appeared. And if you like this little fellow over here, being very arrogant over here, this is the Morris worm. Of course, this is not the graphical representation of the worm. This is just a worm I found and put in the presentation. But basically what happened? So on the 2nd of November, everybody was sleeping very nice. Usually computers were used in major institutions. It was not like we had computers at home in that day and age. I was not even born in that year. So basically in 1988, on the 3rd of November, all of a sudden, all institutions' computers and everybody could not use their computers anymore. They were flooded, and this particular Morris worm was actually taking up the resources of the computer. And I believe that some of you guys know how many resources were in computers back in that day. Just few. So this particular worm was just hogging all the resources. Now, it's a funny story. This guy, Morris, he was a student in computer science. His father was a big shot in NASA, if I'm not mistaken. And what he did, he was very smart. He went to another college, not his own. I believe he went to MIT and deployed the virus through the MIT network. And he actually wanted this virus to replicate just in 20% of the cases or so, but the virus actually spread it even more. And this caused, I believe, between $10 and $100 million in recovery. Of course, he was found, he was trialed, he got some community service, a big fine, and just a little bit of jail time. Further down the line, Morris actually became an MIT teacher. And he was known as the first white hat hacker in history because he basically exposed that, hey guys, with this type of an internet structure, with your nice houses, doors unlocked and picket fences, and nobody could actually, everybody could actually do something to you, somebody will do something to you. So basically his attempt was a wake-up call to everybody. Now, I promised I won't bore you too much with history, so let's move on and see exactly some more recent attacks. And believe me, you're gonna like these attacks. Now, again, we're gonna do a bit of time travel, and let's stop in the year of 2024. Now, in 2024, we have a massive attack on Yahoo. Okay. We all know Yahoo. We might have used their email, we might have used their search engine, we might have used their messenger with those buzz sounds, right? That were waking up the entire house if you didn't have your sounds muted on the computer, right? We all remember that period. Now, what happened with Yahoo? Now, if you look at the press, Yahoo had 5 million accounts hacked. It was believed that it was state-sponsored. Then it was all over the news. Then Yahoo actually was obliged to declare a class action settlement to every user that was on Yahoo. So basically, it was literally all over the news. Even if you search it right now, it has its own Wikipedia page. You have over 1,300,000 results if you search it on Yahoo. But let's actually go and dissolve this attack and see exactly what happened in this attack. So if we look at this particular attack, of course, let's look at some categories. We will look at the attack title, the type, how did it happen, some wow facts, and how to avoid this type of attack, because it's important, right? It's still relevant even in today's day and age. So the title, if you look at all over the place, is going to be Yahoo data breach. Now, before I show you the attack type, I just want to pick your brain and see if you can think of what method was used to be able to penetrate the Yahoo network. So I'm launching a second poll right now. The question is, what method of entry do you think was used in this attack? And the options are brute force, social engineering, phishing, spear phishing, and backdoor. So we have people very, very active in the voting. Thank you. Let's see. Backdoor is the winner so far, and we have the rest of them being voted in an equal pace. We have some spear phishing voters. Okay, and I'll just leave the poll for 10 more seconds. I'm just gonna use my pink mug over here to sip some coffee. Okay, things are changing in the poll. Brute force is starting to get closer to backdoor as a voting. Okay, cool. 5 more seconds, guys, and I'll stop the poll. Okay, that's it. Let's put the poll on the screen so that everybody sees the information. So we do have backdoor as being the winner. Then we have brute force, social engineering, phishing, and just few people voted for spear phishing. Okay, let's see how this attack happened. And thank you for your votes. I am gonna hide the poll and go back to the sharing over here. Oh, it went automatically on sharing. Okay, guys. So indeed, the last will be first in this particular case. It was spear phishing. Basically, if we look at what spear phishing is, this is basically a phishing campaign that is not targeted to everybody. It's not like I'm putting something out there and I'm waiting to see what happens here. No, it's actually targeted to a specific person or group that will include usually the information that you want to know. And of course, initially, in order to do the spear phishing, you need to do a bit of social engineering. But in this particular case for spear phishing, and why it's not considered social engineering, is you just do reconnaissance, which is also the initial part of social engineering. And then if you cannot do a spear phishing, then you move on to social engineering and you try to get the information in a different way. So again, this is a type of phishing campaign that targets a specific person or group, often will include known information of the interest of the target, and the target has a connection to something that is an interest of the attacker. Okay, so let's see, how did this happen? So there was a Latvian hacker that gained access to the Yahoo user database. And when he did this, he basically gained access to the account management tool and to the database of users. Then what they did is they have created a special type of cookie that will be installed through the Yahoo website on the user's computer, so that that cookie afterwards allowed them to connect to any account that has used that cookie without even knowing their passwords. Now that's a bit strange, right? I also felt a bit worried because I also had a Yahoo account. Luckily, it was passive for a long time. I had no relevant data in there, so I just ignored it. But yeah, if I were to be a regular user of Yahoo, I would be freaking out when I've seen this report. Now let's look at some wall facts. Yahoo did not report this breach until September 2016, and almost 1 year from then, actually 1 year and plus from that angle. Yahoo actually affirmed that all 3 billion users of theirs were affected by this particular hack. Now, this basically transformed the Yahoo data breach into the largest security data breach in the history of internet at that particular time. And that's basically why it ended up on our list. Otherwise, we wouldn't have talked about it. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm recovering from a cold, so if my voice goes a bit weird, I'm sorry for that. Okay, so I thought I was almost cured from this cold, but it seems it's not. So guys, what could have been done so that you avoid this type of attack? So we have aggressive email security and also phishing awareness training. Now, if you are a company that sells email, you should actually have all your employees very well prepared to face off any type of phishing attack, even if it's on their personal email, even if it's on their work email. So that's why, guys, employee awareness is mandatory. And as well in the work environment, you can actually use tools, email security tools, even Heimdal's, for example, or any other tool out there. You choose, you pick, right? You can use those tools to literally block all incoming email aside of approved addresses, right? So if your users are not, let's say, in sales or something like that, you can actually just open them up to email addresses that they need. This basically will end up in you being more secured. Of course, it's a bit of a difficult task to pull. You would need to invest the time in opening up the email addresses, but then you basically spare yourself from this particular cost. So I'm sorry about the coughing, but I'm muting so that I don't affect your ears in the process. So let's look at the next attack over here. The next attack happened a few years after that. And for the next attack, we have decided to look at a ransomware strain, and not any ransomware strain. We will choose the one that literally impacted almost the entire globe. And that happened in mere hours. And that's why we've chosen it for today's discussion. So if you look at the press for this ransomware attack, you will see something like the Germany transportation company. This was on all their panels. You will see the University of Montreal. You will see the giant car manufacturer Renault and Nissan that shut down 5 of their plants. You would see NHS, which is the UK's health system. Literally, they had a loss of £92 million in this process. And if you do want to Google this attack, of course, it has its own Wikipedia page, but this attack literally has the most Google searches in the history of cyber attacks. And that's why it made it on our list today. Now, let's see. What do you think made possible the WannaCry attack? Let's again look at the details. Again, attack title, type, how it happened, wow facts, and what could you do to avoid such an attack? So the name that you will find mostly all over the place is WannaCry Outbreak, a perfect ransomware storm. The attack type was basically an exploit ended with a ransomware payload. Now, guys, this is basically one of the first, and I believe, I don't know if it was the first, some people say it was, or one of the biggest generation 5 attacks. That means that they are using multiple vectors in order to perform the attack. Now, how did this happen? The cyber criminals leveraged the Eternal Blue, which is a NSA leaked cyber weapon. Basically, this particular cyber weapon was used to exploit a Microsoft Windows vulnerability that was leaked by the Shadow Brokers hacker group. Now, why is this interesting? Because this is basically when people started to look at cyber attacks way different than they were looking before this one. This one basically allowed everybody to start looking at this as a long-term business, not as a single attack here and there. Now, what's actually wow about this particular attack? This particular attack had a global spread that happened in mere hours by leveraging this particular exploit and the most simple programming that you can find out there to hunt the entire globe for internet-facing servers that weren't patched. And this leads me to the next type of, the next wow fact that I want you to see. So I'll show you these 4 months over here. And I believe that some of you guys might already know why I'm showing you these particular months. So in January, the US CERT, which is an organization that was founded back in the day when the Morris worm messed up everybody's computers, US CERT issued the warning that this particular vulnerability is very dangerous. Then Microsoft in March released the patch for this, and of course issued a lot of warnings that this is a mandatory patch. It's very dangerous. Then in April, the shadow brokers, that hacker group that we've just mentioned, releases Eternal Blue on the dark web for attackers to start leveraging it. So in May 2017, WannaCry outbreak happens, right? But guys, let's look at this time frame. January, notification from US CERT, which is something very important. Everybody takes it very serious. March, of course, with a bit of delay, Microsoft finally manages to release the patch. Then in April, 1 month after the patch is released, we have shadow brokers coming in with the tool available for everybody. So computers should have already been patched. But guess what? If we go back to that red map, that means that computers were not patched. And then just in May, WannaCry outbreak starts. So that's actually very, very dangerous, guys, because this comes back to the fact that people should patch their computers. Okay, maybe home users don't patch their computers. They should. But companies, for companies, it's mandatory, guys, to patch the computers. It's very important. Of course, we know patching is important, so we will not dwell too much on that. How to avoid such an attack? Okay, we have patching policies. Of course, automated patching should be included, but you can also do manual, right? For example, with Heimdal patching, you can do both manual and automated. And we also have encryption protection tools. So guys, even if you didn't patch, if you have a tool that protects you from the encryption, you can have, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files encrypted, but then the tool picks up and it stops that particular thing. So these type of 2 tools were necessary to avoid such an item. And we have a question, actually a note. I'm going to read it out loud from one of the audience members. As I know, the MS update against WannaCry wasn't included in the auto upgrade by Microsoft. And you are actually totally correct, because basically this one was for servers. Now, in this particular scenario, the attackers found both servers and computers that were available. So that's why they didn't put it as an automated upgrade. So guys, that's why it's important when you look at your tools, and thank you for this note, Julia. It's very, very good as a note, and you're spot on with this one. Guys, when you do your patching, make sure you include what you want to happen in that particular patching. And even outside of that, make sure you always have an eye on the Microsoft release notes, mostly towards Patching Tuesday, right? That interval when they push out the majority of their patches. Now, guys, I promised I won't stick too much on history. So let's look at the next attack. Number 3. This attack is happening in 2017, and it's called the Equifax data breach. Now, guys, I know that this one shook the entire world, right? Equifax, due to their nature, they handle very sensitive data. So it was all over the news. Then we have their stock plummeting 4% after 1 year. So they continue to go down. If we look at this particular table, we will see what type of data was exposed, right? So you guys can see how sensitive this data is. Now, if we look further, we even have the Federal Trade Commission from America coming in and discussing about this particular breach. So literally this one made the entire US population freeze. And luckily for the Europe and outside of the US, we didn't have too many people using Equifax, but I believe there were some. If we look on Google, I know it's a big count of searches, but it's still not close to WannaCry, right? So WannaCry, guys, was, I believe it was the first generation 5 attack. Now, if we look a bit at this attack, of course, we promised to look at those details, right? Attack type, attack title, how it happened, wall facts, and so on. So, attack title. Everywhere you look, Equifax data breach, 605 million records of 147 million people were exposed to the attackers. Now, let's see. Should we put another poll on this one? And since it's so famous, I want your opinion. What do you think was the method of entry in this attack? Was it an exploit? Was it social engineering? Or was it phishing? Was it remote code execution? Was it backdoor? So a lot of people are going for phishing now. Let's see. Let's see what's your opinion, guys. I'll make this poll short, just 30 seconds. 5 seconds remaining. Cast your vote, guys. Cast your vote. Okay, poll is closed. So let me share it on the screen so that all of you see the results. We have 27% voted for exploit and phishing. So basically we have two number ones in this case. Then we have 18% two number twos, social engineering and remote code execution. And the last 9% of the audience has voted for backdoor. Okay, so guys, let me hide this and let me go back to my screen share. This attack type was remote code execution, but it was also exploit usage. So basically, they used an exploit, but they didn't install anything. It was a fileless type of attack. Since 2010, fileless attacks started to happen more and more. How did this happen? They have exploited a vulnerability in the website, the official website of Equifax, which was their customer complaint portion. Basically, there was a reported vulnerability in the Apache Struts system, which allowed for remote code injection. Basically, this is me from home entering their website and allowing me to command their server to do things on my behalf because there's a vulnerability that allows me to do that, which is very, very dangerous, guys. Now, let's see some wow facts about this one. As you know, I like to dig deep into these and see exactly the funny things that happen behind. So this is again a generation 5 attack, which is very dangerous. This is the generation which we're in right now, generation 5 and 6. So the wow fact is that they were breached on March 10, and the attackers stood undetected. So they were in the network until May. Guys, this is for a company like this is huge, right? But it can happen to anyone. So don't judge them. Then, due to another mistake that was happening back then, they managed to move around the network and stay in there without being detected. So the mistake was they did not renew a 10-month late expired certificate for their public key encryption. So basically this is used to encrypt, decrypt, analyze, right? All of these. So they did not renew that. Now, another wow fact is that considering the sensitivity of this information, and guys, this is super sensitive information, credit card data, name, social security number, and it's actually something that is very, very sensitive. They took 40 days to inform the customers and prepare a plan, which is, again, guys, this is dangerous, right? So this should make us think, where are we starting accounts? How are we using our data, our passwords, right? So be very careful in today's world. You saw the world as it is, right? Everybody has devices, everybody's connected. I don't know how many of you, and I hope that a lot of you, are reading the policies on the apps on your phone. Things are very dangerous if we look at them. Of course, I don't want to be doom and gloom over here because I also use the apps on the phone, right? But I just want to create that awareness, guys, because an informed person is a person that knows how to react. So how could we avoid such an attack? Two major components, which are also available in the Heimdal patching program. Patch policies, very important. This is mandatory. And software renewal management. So you need to keep track in a centralized location and visible to a lot of IT staff. What are your licenses that you need to renew? When do you need to renew them? And other details. And you can do this also with Heimdal's patching, including the extended patching for custom patching and so on. But with that being said, let's leave Equifax behind, and let's look at the fourth attack that we have. The fourth attack is, again, ransomware. You guys know I love ransomware, right? So this is about the CNA Financial company, and it's very close to us. It's in 2021, last year. So let's see, why is this attack on our list? Because it's not bigger than what happened with WannaCry. So if we look at this attack, we have Bleeping Computers issuing an article about how they breached CNA. We have the Chicago Tribune issuing articles. Bloomberg saying that this is literally a $40 million ransom. Then again, we have insiders saying the same thing. And if we search it, it's still under the biggest and most searched cyber attack, which is WannaCry. Now, if we look further into this particular one, let's see, what attack type was this? Of course, what attack title? Let's put this on the page as well. How did this happen? So the attack title that I chose for this one is the biggest, at least declared, cyber ransom payout in the history of the known trackable history, right? It was done by Phoenix Crypto Locker, and the attack type was a compromised update, admin credential harvesting, and ransomware. So how did this happen? Basically, attackers first breach an employee's workstation using a fake and malicious browser update delivered via a legitimate website. That's the problem. So basically, these attackers hacked into a legitimate website and placed a patch that was compromised. Then, after that, they compromised elevated privileges using a tool similar to Mimikatz, right, a credential harvester, and perform lateral movement to start reconnaissance. That happened for 15 days. In the 16th day, which is actually the fun part, the attackers have disabled the security systems of one of the biggest insurance companies in the United States, wiped any trace of any backup that they had on the network, and then last but not least, they deployed the ransomware. They did not stand a chance when this happened, literally, because everything was disabled. Even if they wanted to do something, they could not, which was the most frustrating thing for their team. Now, some wow facts about this. The full restore of their business happened in 63 days. And they are huge, guys. They have resources, they have funds, they have teams, they have outside contractors. They have it all. It's such a big company, and they have it all. In that attempt, more than 15,000 systems were encrypted in a very, very short time. And guess what then happened? The attackers used a public web transferring tool, MegaSync, right? Mega Transfer. I believe some of you guys might have heard about it, to exfiltrate data, which is super funny, right? We should all have public transferring tools banned on the network, but this one was not. Then they literally paid the biggest ransom ever recorded. And guys, again, this is what has been recorded, but some other companies might have paid even bigger, but they didn't want to come out, right? Maybe it was not made public, and so on and so forth. By the way, we at Heimdal have an official position that you should never pay a ransom, because you don't have any guarantee that they will actually deliver what they need to deliver. Now, how to avoid such an attack? I have a few versions here, right? So secure patching is the first one. Guys, no matter what patching tool you use in that's out there, make sure that the packages that get to your computers are vetted. Basically, any patching tool should not take directly the package from the vendor and put it on your computer. They should actually be the ones that decompose that package, make sure there's no malware, make sure there's no backdoor, and only then push it onto your computer. And we, as Experience, we found one vendor in history that actually gave us a compromised patch, and we sent it back. And that one vendor, we shall not name it, has retracted all the patches, made an urgent announcement, and also placed a big warning note on their website and thanked us for helping them. Then we have privilege access management. Nobody in your network should have admin rights and a password to those admin rights. I know they need to use admin rights. So for that, please make sure you have a different method of giving them the admin rights, like a PAM tool. Of course, if you're interested in a PAM tool, you know you can book a demo at the end of the session using the form, and our team can show you about the PAM tool. Then we have endpoint security with anti-tampering. So basically that means if something tries to uninstall your endpoint security, they should not be possible. They should not be allowed to uninstall it, even if they have admin rights, guys, because this is what happened to them. They had admin rights. Then we also need to have encryption protection tools. Let's say everything falls, right? If everything falls, you still need to have the last layer of defense. And this is an encryption protection tool. And we have a question from the audience. How do we handle domain admin credentials? Well, we would recommend not using domain admin credentials most of the time for your day-to-day operations. Of course, domain admin credentials are still required and they are important. But for your day-to-day operations, they should not be on all the computers. And of course, you can put a domain group, let's say IT administrators, in your PAM policy in Heimdal, and whenever they connect to a computer or a server, they will be allowed to automatically elevate with a click of a button. They won't need that domain admin credentials. But of course, if you guys want more details, we're here and we can provide you that. Now, moving to the fifth attack that I want us to talk about. This is the stunning SolarWinds attack that happened actually in 2019 up until 2021, but it was late 2019. Let's see what the press says about this one. Business Insider has raised articles about this one. Then we have another press article saying this is the worst nightmare in cybersecurity. Then we have people asking how worried should they be. BBC explaining that this is very, very serious. Then another article saying that it leaves the entire industry in panic. Then, of course, saying that this is a big Generation 5 attack and how should you protect from Generation 5 attacks. Then we have people saying that even after a year, the supply chain methodology is still used and it's still feared by people. And last but not least, if we look at this one, it has 1,600,000 searches. Even it has its official incident page. Now, if we look at this particular attack, guys, I'm gonna be short on this one because we still have a lot to cover and we have just a few minutes left. So this is the biggest attack supply chain attack in history. Now, as an attack type, it used supply chain and backdoor. And let me give you a few words on what's a supply chain attack. Basically, if you are a cyber criminal organization and you want to target, I don't know, let's take an example, the European government, right? Taking a random example. So if you want to target the European government, it's very it might be very difficult to enter the European government, right? Or the US government, or you name it, right? The Indian government, any government. So what do? You try to find one of the biggest and most secured suppliers that supply that particular government and much more, and you do your best to hack into that and use that product that is supplied to all those governments or government agencies, and through that product, which is trusted, you can hack into those. That's a supply chain attack. You kind of try to find the weakest link, and by any means, SolarWinds and mostly Orion, which is the product that was attacked over here, was not actually a weak link. The attackers were very smart. Basically, this one changed a bit the type of the way we look at cybersecurity. This one made everybody look for unified security, guys, because it was literally the most dangerous Generation 5 attacks, and I'll tell you why. So how did this happen? In September 2019, a classic email account hacking that led to credential theft that allowed the attackers to come in the network of SolarWinds. Then basically this happened in September 2019, right? Then 1 month later, in October 2019, the hackers were so slick, they tested the code injection. Basically, they made the proof of concept, like you do when you buy any type of program, right? You do a test. So what did they do? They inserted a little bit of code into the Orion program. That code was meant to give them back the message, what is the processor type that this user is using on their computer? Something super simple, something so simple that nobody would look at, right? Nobody would wonder why Orion, which was a remote management tool, right, an RMM, would actually query what is the processor type, right? So they saw that they managed to get through undetected. That means that basically what they did is they also purchased Orion, the program, they put it on their computer, and when they saw the code in Orion, they said, okay, we're in. Then they laid low. In February 2020, they basically injected the malicious code called Sunburst, the one that was all over the news. So if you look at this particular process, this is very difficult. I assume that a few people on here know about development. Guys, when you're in development, you make a computer type of code. You actually make a human readable code, the one that the coders, the developers make. You make it in a computer type of code, and that basically seals it off. Now, in order for these guys to do this, they made a bait and switch, and they made a temporary file that whenever a developer was modifying the Orion code, at the last stage of transforming the code from human written code into computer level code, they were switching and entering their information immediately. So it was literally one of the most slick type of attacks in history. Now, in March 2020, SolarWinds pushed the Orion patch that was actually compromised to the world. And by the world, guys, I mean US government agencies, a lot of big US companies, and we'll see some names in the coming slide. Now, let's see what are the wow facts. More than 80,000 SolarWinds customers installed the malicious update, and this includes a lot of major players. Then FireEye has discovered this in December 2020, after so many months. Then they literally ran a POC using harmless code, which we talked about. They pulled the bait and switch, and they literally opened to countless other attacks, including this little one that you see on the screen right now. So this is basically them leveraging their hack into one of the US agencies and sending spam or phishing from that agency's server. And as you can see, what they sent, a lot of people actually clicked on this, and then they were phished. So this literally opened them up to so many potential targets, it was a hard time picking the targets. So guys, This basically makes us wonder. In order to avoid Generation 5 attacks, we need unified cybersecurity. We need aggressive, very aggressive network and firewall decisions, business email compromise, spam, and many others. So, wow facts, this is the most notorious Gen 5 attack in history because they leveraged weapon-grade hacking tools and basically used multi-vector approaches. Now, guys, I promised we will also look at today's world, right? So I'll just do 5 minutes of that very, very fast. So for that, we'll do, again, a short time travel. Let's do hyperspace over here. And let's see what are the global cybersecurity pain points that we're facing in 2022. No more past. Now, in 2022, guys, coming from Info Security Magazine, they're saying that they queried how many internet-facing accounts were breached. And the answer to that is almost 110 million accounts were breached in Q3. We had a 70% quarter-over-quarter increase in this. Then we also have a question about the average ransom demand for an SMB. It's almost $1 million. But if we look at the largest demand from a large firm, actually an average, right? We have $2.2 million. Even if ransomware has declined as an attack with about 20% this year versus last year, we also have a lot of ransomware gangs emerging or re-emerging. So I could track about 5. Black Basta, which is the most dangerous one, Onyx, Mindware, Bloody, and last but not least, re-emerging, somebody that we all fear, REvil. Now, since we want to talk about Black Basta, how many organizations do you guys think were breached by Black Basta? And Black Basta has appeared since April 2022. So how many organizations do you guys think that they breached? Use the chat while I take again a sip out of my pink coffee here. And by the way, guys, we have another few questions in the chat. I will take them in the Q&A section. We're gonna spend 5 more minutes after the time to do the Q&A section. Okay, we have Dusan saying 5 million. Then we have 10,000, 100,000. Okay, guys, if it would have been this much, I believe that everybody would be in major panic right now. Luckily, it was about 90. But again, we're in 2022 when people have a lot of security in place. Even with that security in place, 90 major organizations have been breached by Black Basta. So that's actually a bit dangerous. And of course, we will not go only with doom and gloom. Ransomware attacks have decreased, guys. So, and what's the reason they decreased? Unified cybersecurity, encryption protection tools, PAM with applying the least privilege type of approach. So a lot of secure organizations have heavily secured against this. Then we also have a graph coming from IBM Security and the Ponemon Institute showing us how much breach costs have risen since last year. We have the biggest countries, United States, Middle East, and Canada. They have an increase in breach cost, but as promised, we're not only doom and gloom. If we look at some smaller countries like smaller targeted countries like Japan, South Korea, Scandinavia area, Turkey, they also have decreased at the same time. And why? Because companies are more and more difficult to get breached due to the security that they leverage. Then we also have a few details about the latest threatscape. Over 300,000 websites are hacked daily. 64% of organizations worldwide have reported attacks. 22 billion breach records have been breached in 2021. Ransomware grew last year, decreased this year. A web attack takes place every 39 seconds, and about 300,000 pieces of malware are being discovered on a daily basis. So guys, looking at the threatscape and what everybody out there wants you to know, this is what basically they're describing, right? So we're looking at the world, and based on what they're saying, the world is turning red. right? They're attacking, everything is turning to dust. But I actually want to tell you that this is not 100% true. So if you use these four pillars to achieve cyber resilience, if you have tools to manage and protect, identify and detect, and respond, recover, govern, and assure, you will be able to be cyber resilient. And that is actually what's important here. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that if you go for any type of unified endpoint security, this will help you a lot. And I'm sure that a lot of you out there and a lot of people that will watch this webinar recording are thinking about all these categories and are counting how many products do you have in each of these categories. Some enterprise organizations have even 75 products covering these four categories. And that means multiple agents, multiple dashboards, a lot of overhead, a lot of cost in the security team. So security without unification will cost you a lot. An enterprise usually has 1,000 plus alerts per day, and they use about 280 days to contain a breach. So that's why, because they are using siloed security. The more you unify your security, the less time you will spend, the less cost you will need for teams and so on. Now, your cybersecurity strategy for 2023 should gravitate around 3 words. Less is more, but without any compromise of your security posture, guys. So that's why we at Heimdal can offer 9 products over here. These 9 products, as you can see on the page and as you can download from the data sheets that we have in the handouts, all connect to one unified threat console and all are managed from one dashboard. So you basically do not skip on your security posture, but at the same time you skip on the time consumed and so on. As mentioned, you have 2 related documents in the download section. So that you can download these unified intelligent security as well as some details about our console. And last but not least, guys, before we go into the Q&A, I want to announce the next webinar. This is basically a fireside chat with our CEO. It's going to be moderated by myself. This is on the 8th of December. You should have the link in the chat box. If not, you will receive the email about this, of course. And last but not least, before we go into the Q&A, please remember that at the end of this session, you will receive a email with a form asking for your feedback. I do appreciate everybody that actually offers that feedback. It's important for me. I and both myself and Heimdal want to make the sessions more valuable for you. In this feedback form, if you can say a few words, greatly appreciated. If you guys want to book a meeting to discuss about any of the products that you've seen there, even to do like a short analysis on your cybersecurity posture, anything, please feel free to use the book a meeting function. Also, you have my email and my LinkedIn over here. Please feel free to use those as well. I am open to receiving and to discussing on email and LinkedIn as well. So guys, let me know, what questions do you have for me? And I promised I will stay 5 minutes over the time to pick all of them up. Now, I'm opening the question area. I will give priority to the questions that were raised throughout the presentation. Matt. Matt is saying, thank you so much for another informative and entertaining webinar. Our pleasure, Matt. We have a question. Oh, this is interesting. This is sensitive. Isn't Heimdal a supply chain? Oh, yes, it is. So guys, Heimdal is in fact a supply chain. And what makes Heimdal a supply chain? Basically, and this is not a supply chain like a commerce supply chain, right? Like production, transport, logistics and stuff. But Heimdal is installed on a lot of computers. That makes Heimdal eligible to be, let's say, hacked so that they can hack you. But guys, believe me, we have one of the, I would say, smartest people in the world as our CTO and lead developer at the same time. Guys, this guy has secured this particular product in so many ways that if somebody actually manages to break into it, we would give him an award. However, I'm not encouraging any hackers to try, but if they do try, they will have a very difficult time to do something like that. So let's see, any other questions while I sip some of my coffee here? Okay, we have another question. Do you actually check all the patches that you deploy, Microsoft included? Okay, so guys, patching in Heimdal has two areas. Very important. Good question. Thank you. First, third-party patching, like third-party applications. We check all of them. We never release a patch that we have not vetted, and we don't use only our threat intelligence to vet the patch. We even run it on VirusTotal to see all the other vendors that that can do something. We sandbox it. We make sure to mess around with it so much, and also we test it internally before we issue anything out. But when it comes to Microsoft, guys, we make your computer go to Microsoft and take the patch. So for those, we cannot be held accountable because we make your computer go to Microsoft to take it. But yeah, I wanted to shed light on that. Any other question? Okay. We have again a similar question with patching that came earlier, but I believe this answer covers both of them. So guys, come on, let me know. Okay, a question about email security. Okay, so if I'm using Office 365 security or G Suite security, okay, that's the Google one, right? Can I also use another security tool on top of that? Well, you can, both ours and others from the market. So vendors that have security tools for email will always be able to sit on top of your all your security that's already provided from your hosting vendor, right? So you basically get two security layers. What can you lose, right? It's super easy. Okay, we have Jens coming with another question. What about security for iPhones? Oh my God, I love this one. With iPhones, it's very, very important. When you talk about security for iPhones, there is no such thing as an antivirus for iPhones. And if anybody in the market positions themselves as an antivirus, please share with me the link and we will look into that software together, because it's impossible by coding to create such a product. For iPhones, you can have traffic security. You can have maybe application, what you might call this, I'm missing the word, application reputation security, right? Or application controlling maybe, but not an antivirus. And for the moment, Heimdal has no reach on iPhones yet. We do have Macs, but no reach on iPhones yet. Okay, another question. If a customer has NAS like Synology and QNAP, what is the best solution? So, Michael, I would actually protect the computers first, so that they don't get to infect the NAS. And for the NAS, it depends on what it runs. So I didn't look into Synology and QNAP, but you can send me an email and I can look into them, and we can see if that supports. So I believe if they run on Windows as an OS, we support that and we can secure the NAS directly. But if it's not, we can secure it from the computer. The Heimdal ransomware security will be able very soon to protect your drive as well, not just your computer. So you can connect with me on email and we can talk further. And we have another question for Dusan. When is ransomware protection will be available for Mac OS? So Dusan, we can take that in private and see exactly raise this request on your behalf. And when we get enough requests from the market, we put the product available. But we need to get a lot of requests from the market to do that. Okay, and Alf coming with the last question here. When will this recording be available? So guys, it will take me a few days to be able to edit it. I'll make it nice and put it on YouTube with the thumbnails and with the skip parts, so that you can go to your specific desired part of the webinar. And of course, we're gonna take one last question from Jens. Will Heimdal at some point be able to deliver DNS service to a company without a private IP? Jens, we are already able to do that. I think you didn't read the latest release note. I can send it to you if okay, I have your email in the registration form. I'll send that to you. So basically, with the hybrid DNS that has been released recently for network DNS, you don't need to have a static IP anymore. We can install our agent on your DNS server, and from that we can directly do the forwarders automatically, even if you have a dynamic IP. So you don't need to worry about that anymore. Of course, we can discuss more, maybe have a private meeting about that. I believe you're a current customer or partner, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have that question. Okay, guys, so it has been an immense pleasure being with you here. I hope you didn't mind my voice and my throat. Yeah, what I'm gonna do now is close the session and get working on your questions that I didn't get to, as well as the video. Guys, it was a pleasure. Have a nice one and see you in our next webinar. Bye-bye.